We will first go through the purpose of deployment diagram, and then we will see deployment diagram notations. These include nodes, very important part of deployment diagram. Secondly, we will cover artifacts, which is also the notation that is used in deployment diagram. We will show communication associations and devices used in the system, and after that we will see deployment specifications. These are all the notations that are used for deployment diagram creation. And after the deployment diagram notations, we will see how we can draw deployment diagram, an important aspect to learn about various systems, that how you can show your system interaction, hardware and software interaction basically. And after in this portion we will see different steps to formulate deployment diagram, and the demo should be shown in visual paradigm. So starting with the first section of deployment diagram tutorial is that we will learn about the purpose of deployment diagram. We can see that deployment diagrams are used with the sole purpose of describing how the software is deployed into the hardware system. This is very important aspect that is now visibly shown by deployment diagram, that you will see how your logical components will reside inside the devices, or you can say physical units. So it visualizes that how the software interacts with the hardware to execute the complete functionality, and also you can say that it is software to hardware interaction. So in general, what notations we use in deployment diagram are, we will see that first is nodes, and a node is represented by a 3D block, 3D cube, and which is also a physical entity, you can say, that executes one or more components. So you can easily visualize that inside this node your components will be deployed, and you can say that subsystems or executable files, etc. These will be encapsulated inside the node, and a node could be a hardware or a software element. So secondly, we can say that artifacts, which is clearly shown by this notation, a rectangular block with the stereotype of artifact and a small artifact sign. Artifacts are basically these are the concrete elements, you can say. These are the actual outputs of the logical units. You can say that they are caused by the development process. They have their actual existence basically, and that's why we are naming them as a concrete element. And we can say that examples of artifacts are configuration files or executable files. So these are the artifacts, and coming across the communication association, we can see that these nodes are basically now having the interaction with this solid line indicated in between the different nodes. This is how the different nodes will communicate with each other. This is the third important notation that is used for adjoining different nodes. And the fourth is devices. You can see that this structure is almost similar to the class diagram, class notation, in which we have the class name and its attributes, and the third portion is showing you the operations. So this device is basically used to represent the physical computational resource in a system, and you can say that it is an application server that is hosting other nodes. Finally, we have a deployment specifications. This deployment specification is basically showing you that how your artifact is deployed inside the node. So deployment specification, as you are looking at this figure, it is involving the different attributes with their type, and this deployment specification is basically, you can say, it is a configuration file such as a text file or an XML document, as I've already stated, with the sole purpose of describing how an artifact is deployed on a node. So the last portion is how to draw a deployment diagram. So here's just an overview of deployment diagram again before moving to the steps used for creating deployment diagram. We can see that deployment diagram, it visualizes the topological view of an entire system. Topology is basically showing you the entire structure of a system. It represents the deployment of a system, and you can say that it consists of nodes which describe the physical devices used inside the system, and on these nodes your artifacts will be deployed. So in your minds it will be clear that there will be nodes in the diagram, and inside the nodes there will be artifacts. We can say that we can also have node instances on which the artifact instances are going to be implemented. Node instance is basically the particular object or a single instance of a node, and artifact instance is one of the artifact objects. So this line is giving you the summary of an entire paragraph above, that is, nodes and artifacts of a system participate in the final execution of a system. In fact, in the deployment diagram we can easily find out the nodes and their associations, also nodes holding different artifacts. So this is the final execution of a system. Now coming to the steps that are involved in the creation of deployment diagram are basically, the first step is to identify the purpose of deployment diagram. With this, what is the thing that will come in your mind is like you will find out the nodes and devices within the system. This is the first step that you will realize that what nodes and devices will participate in the system. And second part is to figure out the relationship between the nodes and the devices. Then comes the part of association between these nodes and the devices, and once you know how they are connected, you proceed to add the communication associations to the diagram. So it is very important step that to realize that how these nodes and devices are basically interacting with each other. The third step is identify what other elements like components, active objects you need to add to complete the diagram. You can finally find out the different components, executable files, dynamic link libraries, or you can say the configuration files that will be the part of your system. And the last step is add dependencies between the components and the objects as required. Finally, you will add the dependencies, how these objects and components and objects are basically depending on each other. These are the steps that are involved in creation of deployment diagram. So our next part would be the demonstration using Visual Paradigm 2. I will illustrate few examples. So students, now I'm starting with the demonstration. I have used this online platform, that is visualparadigm.com. This is the sign up page for Visual Paradigm Online, and I've used my ID to log into Workspace just for free. And these are the three different variants of Visual Paradigm Online. You can use Visual Paradigm for creating diagrams, and you can use in the creation of forms also. You can formulate tables here. So as I'm concerned with the Visual Paradigm Online Diagrams mode, so I just sign into the Visual Paradigm Online Diagrams. And I'm here showing you the deployment diagram creation. So I've searched for the deployment template here, and these are different templates which I have searched for. So students, I'm just using this template, the basic one, that is build from scratch or start form template. This is the page shown for deployment diagram creation. You can see different notations here. These are the main notations which we use for a deployment creation: nodes, artifacts, and we have instance specification. You can see the interface notation, and we have components, also the different types of association you can see. So students, we are starting with the example of hotel management system. According to the first step, we have to select the node for our system, and we need to decide the number of nodes and the devices in our system. So we can adjust the size of node, as nodes can be of various sizes. This is the example of a desktop application or hotel management system. So I will consider a single node of a client workstation. So I can just mention the stereotype here. It is client workstation. See, I can also insert text here. And I will mention the name of device, PC. This is one of the node I have decided, and in this station I will depict another node. So you can say that a node can reside inside another node. Please enlarge it, and you can adjust the size of this node as well. So I just need to write the stereotype of operating system here. And in this case, I will insert the text bar of I will move it here and name it as Windows 8. Or Windows 10 in my case. So I just want to edit it. You can edit the name. By Control Z and Windows 10. Okay, this is the second node I've introduced here, and now I need to mention the application server, which will be another node inside the bounds of operating system. need to adjust the size. So it should be clearly showing the name of different nodes, so one can have a fine idea of the different nodes in a system. Application server. Basically it is going to host all the features which your hotel management system is providing. And you will need to add a text bar. It's going to mention the name of the server. This is hotel. I will write the short of it, HMS. In my case it is hotel management system. So this is just the structure of the nodes, and now I will introduce different components which will reside in this application server. First component, I can enlist many components here. So with the stereotype of component, I can just name it as guest component. And the second one is employee. So these are the main two components. Other components I will introduce of room and room service. You can just name it here. Control C. It is outside the. I'll move it here, and then I write the name of another component, room service. Room and room service basically. So keeping in mind other components, I can just enlarge it. So I have other component of major component of inventory. Inventory in this case. See. Likewise, I can add the other components of accounts, transport and entertainment, and we can have a spa component here and also the restaurant component. So you can extend the components here in the application server according to the functionalities in your system. This would be a main application server for your system, and the other nodes in this system would be that are communicating with this main server are, first is printer server, and we can name as client printer. Give it as a name as a client printer. Another node of database server, a very important aspect to hold the persistent data of your system. So database server. it's a good idea to introduce stereotypes in your system, so it will provide an extended information to the user, other users. Database server, and you will enter here to ensure the name. So now you need to show the association between the various components. The third aspect is, after after finding out the nodes and devices and then adding the components, you need to find out the associations and dependencies. So in this case, I'm going to take the link between these are the two different lines. I will use the association line between. So students, now connecting database server to application server, we need another association line. See, here we can connect this to the like this, and it is asking for the association, and I have checked the simple association between two nodes. So this is how we can add the number of different nodes inside a single node, and we can place other nodes and then connect it to the with the association lines. This diagram shows you the deployment diagram for hotel management system, and you can finally save changes to the diagram here after adding your credentials. So here is another example of deployment diagram for music streaming app. We can see different nodes. This is the front side, having the user client with its web browser, and this is the Android system, basically having stream app in it. So we have different protocols, and these connection lines have showing you the protocol stereotype and naming the protocol that is used in between the nodes. It is commonly known as TCP/IP protocol, on which we communicate on the internet. So this is the main middleware of the system, and it is having the execution environment of Python, and it has the main elements of components of basically application logic and serving as the middleware in it, middleware. And you can see that it has a music panel inside it, and it is connected to the backend database, and it is basically having the stereotype of database driver